Let's talk about pork tenderloin. I'm going to make some katsu out of this. You can take off the membrane if you really want to, but what I like to do is pound this out flat. You don't just cut this and then bread it. So I like to cut them into pieces about this big, or this is only half of a pork tenderloin. So I'm going to cut it into some pieces, and then we'll show you how we flatten it out. Cut it up. This is too small, but I'm going to make some small katsu. And again, like I said, you can take that off. Since I'm frying it, I don't really care. So when you flatten this, you actually want to take it off there and turn it like this, and then flatten it this way. It'll make a much more tender piece of meat because you're going to create something where you can cut it against the grain instead of flattening it. You don't want to flatten it this way, like this. Then you can make this as thin as you like. I like it pretty thin. The reason I like it thin is because I like to have about as much meat as I do breading. That just makes a I guess a more even bite. So I'm going to flatten it out like twice as thin as that. So check it out. A piece just this big, once pounded, became this big. So that's going to be the perfect size in my opinion. I really like it thin, like I said, because we want as much breading as there is meat in each bite, so that we get a nice crunch on the outside, a little bit of meat in the middle, sort of a nice even bite, and a lot of different textures going on. So this became that. Okay, this is an optional step, and if you do this, you do not want to put very much salt on it at the end. But I've got some gochujang paste right there. That's some Korean red pepper paste made out of, I believe, fermented soybeans. They use a lot of this in Korean cooking. A little sugar is in there as well. So it's salty, sweet, and spicy. And I'm just going to take a spoonful of this. You don't want much because it's pretty spicy. And then I'm just going to put that on there and then rub it in there with my hands. Give it a very thin coating, about like that, all over. Now I'm going to set this aside while I'm getting everything else ready. And the nice thing about this is when we drop this in the flour, it's going to really help the flour to stick to it. So give it a nice little coat of gochujang and then set it aside and just let that draw out some of the moisture and stuff. Oh, look, it's my frying station. We've got the meat, flour. After it goes in the flour, I'm going to let it sit for just a second. Then it's going to go into the egg. Then that's panko. And then that's peanut oil in a wok. Wok is the best way to fry things because the shallow bottom and the gradation as it moves up means you're going to need way less oil than you normally would need to fry like the same amount of stuff. So I always fry in a wok. I wash my hands to get the phone so I could do this. Listen. Oh yes. You're welcome for that sound effect. So I'm just going to coat them like that and set them aside for a second until everything's ready. And then we'll do this, this, and this all in one swoop. Alright, so these are breaded. Don't crowd the pan. They just need a couple minutes on each side because they're so thin. So you can kind of just watch when it gets golden brown. And make sure the oil is hot enough or else it'll be steam on the inside. The oil wasn't quite hot enough for these two, so we'll see how it is for these. Chef John fork test. This fork has never lied. Alright, see how it looks on the inside. It sucks to film and do this at the same time. There we go. And after it's done, these little seasonings. So I got a little MSG on there. And a little bit of salt because I didn't do that before. This thing would focus. There we go. Whatever. MSG and salt. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to eat. Bye.